It's the joy of working at Google. I learn every day that technology does not always work exactly like you want it to. So thank you for that brief delay. I'm going to talk today about 6 behaviors that we've seen looking at Google's data and other data that we're seeing people do digitally that we don't think brands are maybe using as much as they could. Very briefly, my team, my larger team, is called the Brand Unit. We work with generally large brands who want to do some innovative digital marketing, do something a little different than maybe what they do every day. My personal team is called the Zoo, and we're a small unit that tries to really look deep into data. We have myself as a strategist and other strategists. We have creative directors, we have engineers, we have producers. What I'm going to talk about today are behaviors, like I said, that we've found in our work that we think could be very useful and are being underutilized. And we call it Humanizing Digital. So I'm going to talk about 6 things. Maybe, there we go. The first insight I'll talk about is called the Quicksilver self. And what I mean by that is that we see mobile puts the world's collective knowledge at our fingertips. Okay? We can get restaurant recommendations, we can find clear directions, we can get a first date while we're out walking around. Last night, when I was walking around Sao Paulo, I don't know the city very well, I immediately found restaurants I wanted to go to, places I wanted to check out. I didn't have a plan in my head. I knew I could just go out, and during the course of my evening could change, and I was open to that. And I suspect that many of you have had this same experience, probably frequently, where your day will change based on something that you see online, or you're not sure where you want to go, so you'll search for something nearby. So searching nearby is something that we have seen an enormous increase on. We see almost 50% growth of near-me mobile searches made from hotels in the last year. So I don't know if any of you have been to a hotel and you want to go get a nice drink and you say, bar near me. We're seeing this behavior very commonly, and consumers most definitely expect to have that information at their fingertips. This graph is the search term near me, period, not just at hotels, anywhere, over the course of this is 2004. Do I have a little thing on here? I do. Yes. 2004, 2008, 2012. Here's 2016. So that behavior is skyrocketing. 50% of consumers who conducted a local search on their smartphone visited a store within a day, a physical store, looking for a product they want to buy, looking at a review, versus 34% on a computer and tablet. Frankly, 34% is a great number. 50% is incredibly high. I know you've already heard today a little bit about connecting online to offline. It's a behavior that, again, I don't think we're seeing as many brands as we would suspect taking advantage of. So how do you actually take advantage of this? Briefly, this uptick in near-me and localized searches is an example of creating spontaneous moments. And as brands and as marketers, you can help people have spontaneous moments. Tinder, an amusing example, if you're not familiar with Tinder, it's a dating service that looks for people nearby you. Swipe right, swipe left, you probably know of it. They actually made their first match in Antarctica a couple of years ago. There were research scientists in Antarctica, and a couple just happened to see, like, oh, that person actually is here, started dating, and started a relationship. So to be spontaneous, you don't have to be in the middle of a major city. You could literally be in the North Pole. It still works. An artistic example. This is a group called MoMAR, and the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, of course, shows very famous pieces of art, and that's about it. And this group wants to encourage people to look at new artists, young artists, people that are not Picasso or Monet. So what they did is they created an app that lets you go to the MoMA, and all of the most famous paintings in MoMA act like QR codes, and they'll show you a young artist's work instead of that piece. That's a way that takes my day or my trip to a museum and spontaneously makes it much more exciting, a lot more fun, something I'm likely to share with friends. A more branded example, and the question you may be asking is, that's lovely, but how do I use this to drive revenue? How do I actually use this to sell? Is Hotel Tonight. This app, very popular and getting more so, allows travelers to pick where they want to stay while they're on the move. So if I wanted to extend my stay here in Sao Paulo, or if I wanted to travel to Rio, or if I wanted to see the country a little more, I don't have a hotel right now. I can go on this app and say literally tonight what hotels are available and book a room then. So there are a lot of different ways to work with spontaneity, with letting people be adaptable to changing their day or their weekend right on the minute. So the implication, the question to ask ourselves is, how can we tap into people's desire to explore, their hope for chance encounters, for experiences and opportunities? Because people have their phones in their hand. They're looking for that. I'll be looking for that later today when I want to find a place to go to dinner. If you can be there as a brand, you can definitely change perceptions, you can change behavior, and you can drive revenue through that. So ask yourself, what can you help people discover about themselves, their worlds, or your brand in the moment? So insight number 2 is the opposite, almost, of Quicksilver Self. Quicksilver Self is, I don't know where I want to go, I don't know what I want to do, help me have a cool experience, help me have an interesting vacation, help me find something cool near me. Placemaking is almost the opposite in that it's, what can we do digitally with physical places that exist to make them more engaging, and how can we as marketers or as brands engage people in that way? So people, of course, have strong connections with physical spaces and the places around us. You have memories that are formed there. They shape the stories of our life. The mobile web, as you can see through imagery and information, makes this world more meaningful, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Some statistics first, just to prove that I promise this is true. I think this number is actually very low. And I should ask the Facebook person for updated data. But 40% of adult social media users, 18 and older, say at least one of their accounts is set up to include location in their posts. So if I'm posting to Instagram, it tells you the restaurant you're at or the park you're at. Or on Facebook, you can say, add in the location where I'm sharing this from. And this number is crazy to me, but the number of mobile apps in use that leverage contextual or location data is going to be 7.5 billion by 2009. Sorry, earpiece issues. And that's the number of apps on your phone that know where you are and that allow you to share that information if you want. This is one of my favorite examples of using digital technology to make a place special, but also to drive revenue for a very, very small brand. What you're looking at here is a village in Japan. It is a small village, 8,000 people, and their entire economy was essentially around growing specialty types of rice. And it declined year over year over year for quite a long time as the Japanese diet became a little bit more westernized. And it was basically the income for most of the people in the town. So someone came up with an idea, and whoever it was is brilliant. What if we turn the rice fields into massive works of art? Because there's different colors of rice that they grow. So you see an example here. They have, I want to say, like 20 different fields, and they have, it's not just classic art. They have a Marilyn Monroe. They have a giant robot. Wildly, wildly successful. The point of it was to go out there. If you take a picture on your mobile phone, it tells you all the rice that that field is growing, it gives you a special rate on it, and it'll be delivered to your door, wherever you live in Japan, when the rice comes to full growth. So you don't even get it right then. You're paying money for this experience that you're going to share with people, and then 3 months later, you're going to receive some rice at home. As you can see on the slide, this is an 8,000-person village. 250,000 people visited. The Japanese government actually had to create a new train station for people to take the photos from. So that's a success, in my opinion, when your brand forces a train station to be built. So again, this was not a major brand. This was just a good idea from a small group of people of how can we take a physical place, somehow layer digital technology onto it, in this case, taking a phone that points me to a path to purchase, and make it interesting for people. This is another example, not a brand, but rather a social good. What you're seeing here, is what's called the tweeting pothole. So this is out of Panama, and what they did was, I'm not sure what's going on. What they did was they took all of the roads in Panama, apparently have really bad pothole problems. And if you watch the video of this, it looks like you're driving like through like dunes. An agency decided to take action on this. So what they did was they took a physical object that cars can run over, and every time a car hits it, it sends a tweet to the Department of Transportation in Panama saying, yet another car damaged by this pothole. Telling them where it was and what was going on. And some of these potholes tweeted 300 times a day. So the government actually got pretty concerned about that and started fixing the potholes. Do we have any idea what's going on with the presentation back there, by the way? Just don't blink. I'll just talk about what the next slide is, if someone can take a look. There we go. On a map, on a massive scale, what Google is doing, and I have no connection to this part of Alphabet, our holding company, so I can't answer questions on this, and I would get yelled at heavily by PR, so I'll just give you the general gist. What Google is doing is taking a portion of Toronto and actually trying to rebuild it completely from the ground up, to say, how can we make a place work better via technology? So what you see here are examples of self-driving cars and buses. All the shipping goes under the streets. In fact, there's no curbs, because curbs are there for human drivers to not run over. A lot of interesting things that they're doing. So the question to ask yourself is, how can you connect your brand stories to events, to places, to landmarks in the customer's life? And it doesn't have to be something that you own. It doesn't have to be, that village owned the rice fields. They could do whatever they want. But you can take amazing places and connect your brand to them in all kinds of interesting ways. And you can also think about events. How do we actually make this event more magical? How do we make it a little bit more shareable? How do we make it a bigger memory? So think about what your brands do and what kind of placemaking you can actually do with them. Another dongle. Apologies again for the flickering. The third insight that we'll talk about is fascination with the familiar. And this is one of my favorites. So spontaneity is great. Placemaking is something that almost any brand could do something with if you're creative with it. But fascination with the familiar is, I think, the piece that is most left out by marketers that I work with. And I'll give you some very specific examples. And it's something that every single brand, it does not matter what you make, it does not matter what you sell, you can play with this behavior. So as we shoot, display, and juxtapose everyday moments, we infuse them with a new perspective, right? We see a new point of view. It changes the way something familiar appears to us. So what do I mean by that? We've seen a 280% growth in food channel subscriptions in the last year on YouTube, as everyone adds their own spin on food. Everyone has seen a cooking show. Everyone can cook an omelet. You wouldn't think that there would be so much interest in such a basic day-to-day activity, but it explodes. This guy in particular I just like. He does dishes that you've seen on television and tries to make them in real life. But it's just regular people posting this content and getting these views. This is a very familiar behavior. You can tap into it. This statistic I thought was fascinating. And I actually double-checked it with the team because I was like, that can't be true. Among internet users who posted an original video, approximately 45% have uploaded a video of their pet or animal. And I realized that I have posted a video of my cat when I looked at this, and I was like, okay, it's true. Almost 60% of people posted a video showing friends and family doing everyday things. At a barbecue, a kid on a trampoline. These are not mind-blowing, exciting things. These are our everyday things, but we can make them exciting as brands. So here's a very old example that's still running strong that I love. Oops, excuse me. Blendtec, if you are unfamiliar, is a very expensive blender. I think it's like $400. And they wanted to promote their brand because not a lot of people want to pay $400 for something that makes a smoothie once in a while. So what they did to show the power of their blenders, they created, this is not a video, this is a whole channel, and their most popular video was an iPhone. Will it blend an iPhone? And the answer is, in fact, yes. It's amazing to watch. And it's literally just, oh, they just did a new one, iPhone X, there you go, with a new iPhone. It's just taking a blender, putting weird stuff in it and blending, and people love it, they adore it, and it massively improved Blendtec's sales. So much so that Vitamix, which is the competing $400 blender, lost market share because of this. Another example, and I know it's very hard to see, but this is almost 25 million views. The slow-mo guys, you may have heard of them. They literally just take normal everyday things and shoot them in a super, super slow motion camera. What this is they took gelatin, and hit it with tennis rackets. They made some Jell-O and they hit it with tennis rackets. 25 million views. People like to see the things that they're familiar with every day in new and interesting lights. Another example, painter's tape. If you've ever painted your house or painted your bathroom, you've probably used this. It's not a very exciting product. It's tape. And they wanted to do something to say, how can we make our product, which most people don't ever think about, into something kind of interesting and different, change the way they see it. So they hired artists to make different sculptures out of this. One of the artists made these beautiful lamps, got tons of comments, tons of views. Again, sales went up. They changed their brand from just being painter's tape to an artistic medium. Kids in school started doing things with it. Very simple concept. And I have a personal example I'm going to show you, and I don't know if the video will play. We'll find out. But I had a client I was working with that makes major appliances, refrigerators, dishwashers, washing machines. And they had a new dishwasher. And they told me, no one cares about dishwashers until they break. No one thinks about their dishwasher. I had done my research beforehand, fortunately. And we'll see if this will work. Oops. Maybe, maybe not. All right, well, if this isn't going to work, I'll play it for you at a break. It's the inside of a dishwasher. That's all it is. It's a video where someone took a GoPro, put it inside of a dishwasher, and ran the cycle. It has 9 million views and 1,400 subscribers. I'll try one last time here. Oh, hello. Hold on. Maybe we can make that work. One last try. There we go. That's it. And they put some music behind it. I'll just give you a moment of meditation with the dishwasher. Yeah, it goes on for about 5 minutes. That's 9 million views. So there's nothing that is so boring that you can't make it interesting to people. I've done this work with paper towel companies, with people that make spark plugs. So no matter what your product is, think about how can I take this and make it fascinating, because we know this behavior is true digitally. We know for a fact that people love this kind of thing. I have 100 more videos I could show you, and it doesn't even have to be video content. The tape version was just images. You can do all kinds of things to make your product exciting, and it does absolutely impact sales directly. Nothing I'm showing you today is simply for a little bit of brand lift. All of these we've seen impact on our clients. Oops. So the implication. How can we find the forgotten familiar? Your brands with your products, and reveal that kind of beauty or excitement or silliness. How can we do that? Insight number 4 is energy exchange. And this is an important one, and it's one, again, that we don't see get a lot of views. So When I say energy exchange, what I'm trying to say is the gift of sharing happiness contributes to this energy exchange that amplifies our own pleasure. We're happier when we know we made other people happy too, or we shared in an emotion with other people. Here's an example. I also think this number is low. It's probably higher. It's self-reported. There's a Pew study exploring social media use. 44% of Facebook users like content posted by their friends at least once a day. I suspect, like I say, that number is much higher. 29% doing so several times every day. How many of you liked something in the last 24 hours on a social media site from a friend? Like, probably almost everyone, right? I definitely have. Why do you do that? Right? Why is that a behavior you engage in? And this is a quote I like very much. The like is the wordless nod of support in a loud room. It is the easiest of yeses, I agrees, and me toos, right? Giving someone a way to give a little, like, you're cool, or that was great, or that was funny. Giving people the option to do that for each other is very valuable. What is the most compelling things that we see when we see people sharing and liking and doing all this from our research? Visual content, for sure. People will share articles, right? But really, mostly they're going to share something visual that's fun to see. Something that has an element of surprise to it. If you can add a little bit of surprise in there, and I'm going to show you some examples, that's great. Social currency. I knew about this first. I have really good taste. Like, my music is amazing. Making someone look a little better online always helps. Self-definition, which is setting myself apart. This is who I am. These are my likes, these are my interests. If you can give them a way to do that, and again, we'll see some examples, that's super helpful. And bonding. I want to bond with my friends. You like that thing? I like that thing too. So if you can add in any of these, and the examples I'm going to show you have all of these somewhere in there, it's incredibly helpful. This I thought was interesting too. And the Facebook data also shows similar information. Awe-inspiring or uplifting articles were the New York Times. Their digital content, 30% more likely to make the most emailed list. Sad articles were 16% less likely. Now, I bring this up because I didn't think this could possibly be true for last year or the year before. It's been a pretty tumultuous couple of years, still true. People still like to share something exciting or happy. I don't know if this counts as awe-inspiring or sad. I guess it depends on how you feel about Italy. But those kind of articles tend to get the most shares, that type of information. So I'm going to show you an example, and I hope this one will play. This was posted, if you haven't seen it, I have to look it up. It's probably 2011, maybe earlier. This is a dad who had been having a really hard time getting a job. And they had a new baby, and he was extremely stressed about it. This goes back to the fascinating familiar, too, remember? Everyday things. The thing that he decided to do was take a rejection letter with his 8-month-old boy and just rip it up in front of him. Now, this has 96 million views, which is insane. And I've used this example like 6 or 7 months ago for a client, and it was at 80-some million views. It just gets like millions of views every year. So we'll go ahead and play it, hopefully. Okay, are you a little happier than you were 16 seconds ago? Like, probably yes. So you can use this type of thing to give people with your brands and your marketing something to share. Interesting, though, what we found when we look at the behavioral data, it doesn't just have to be joyful and delightful. It can be a little bit edgy or a little bit snarky, and I'm going to give you this example. Oops, gotta click on this. Okay, so Denny's is a major chain in the US. It's in every city. It's a breakfast place. You get pancakes or waffles or eggs. It's inexpensive. It's very family friendly. And they weren't getting a lot of interest in any of their digital media or digital marketing. Because why would you go look up the Denny's website? You know where it is. You know what they serve. Denny's doesn't really surprise anybody. So they said, what if we could add an element of surprise? Maybe we would get a little bit more attention for our brand and get a little bit more foot traffic into our stores. So they posted this on Twitter. And I know you can't see it, but we'll show you. It is their most liked post of any type on any platform of all time. 120,000 retweets, 170,000 likes, definitely brought people into the store. People were talking about it. This is what it says if you actually, so I'm going to go back. So in the image, it says zoom in on this syrup, right? So if you zoom in on the syrup, you probably can't see it from there, but there's these little tiny words. If you zoom in on the syrup, and I'll read these because I know it's hard to see, it says, look at the lower left corner. So then if you look at the lower left corner, oops, you'll see there's some text there. That says, now look at the lower right corner. Now look at the upper left corner. Now look in the butter. And when you look in the butter, it says, this has distracted you from overwhelming existential dread, LOL. Which is not a message people were expecting from Denny's. It was kind of dark, but also people found it hilarious. So like, this is obviously a joke, and it got me. This is an example from right here, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but this is Coca-Cola taking something and allowing it to become an energy exchange. I want to give something to someone. I want to give someone a feeling. These are the types of things that we see get shared. So that Denny's post retweeted like crazy. The baby video, people share that all the time. So this was a different example. This I really like because it's taking a physical object and making it into an energy exchange. Well, let's just watch it. And I apologize, the case study is in English. I thought surely I could find it in Portuguese, but there you go. And if it doesn't want to play, I'll just tell you.
This is the Coca-Cola Thanks Box, a Coke machine that doesn't work like an ordinary Coke machine. You don't buy a Coke to drink it. You buy a Coke to send off to that special person that deserves a special thank you this year. It's easy. You simply place the Christmas Coke bottle into the machine, and it invites you to record a video thanking whomever you wish. The person will receive the video together with the bottle. The bottle transforms itself into a symbol of gratitude and will arrive to the designated person. Depending on where the person is located, the bottle will arrive as a voucher or at the doorsteps of their house, and the video may be shared on the social media of their choice. And this is how this amazing machine works. 10 Coca-Cola Thanks Boxes were produced and sent to 4 different states. This Christmas, say thank you with a Coke.
So what I like about this example is, again, this is a brand with a physical object. They don't really have a digital thing to do. And they take something that has no actual intrinsic excitement. There is nowhere you're going to go that you can't just go buy a bottle of Coke for yourself. It's not a special gift to receive, right? It's a bottle of Coke. You could get one probably out here. What made it special and what made this very popular is it wasn't the bottle of Coke that you were sending. You were sending a video and something kind of fun, like you don't usually get a bottle of Coke in the mail, but you were getting also the feeling that my friend loves me, or this is for my family, and I'm sharing this together. So you don't have to do something that's just video content, for example, or a tweet. You can do things physically that add into this kind of experience. One of the last ones I'll talk about, and this is a huge example of energy exchange, is Elon Musk and his SpaceX company recently sent a ginormous, I shouldn't say ginormous, that's hard to translate, an enormous rocket into space to test it. And what they did is they stuck on the side a Tesla sports car with a mannequin in a spacesuit, and they blasted David Bowie's Rocket Man during takeoff, and it worked fine. It went into orbit. And if you watch this video, or you watch any of the content around it, so many people tuned in for this. So many people stood in the desert in California to watch it. And why did they do that? Rockets get launched quite often. You can go to Cape Canaveral. You can go to lots of places and see satellites getting launched. What made this special is it made people feel an energy of joy, of delight, and thinking of space travel as something exciting and fun and that speaks to me, not just a thing that happens by international governments. So the implication. How can we create content that shares human energy, content that communicates this excitement, happiness, this vivacity, so that people want to share it? Can we measure success via smiles, not just message recall? And the answer to that question is obviously no. We need to sell products. But helping people to smile, helping people to get excited about something means they want to share it with people. Your message gets out more. Your ROI tends to go up. All right, insight number 5 is cooperation and collaborations. And this is something, again, that with our data we see increasing enormously, and only more so in the last 2 years. It seems to be on a very big upswing. Human beings are hardwired to want to cooperate. If you see someone fall down in the street, chances are you're going to go try to help them up. We just naturally want to cooperate with each other and help each other. And digital has made this collaboration seamless. I don't have to be in the same room to collaborate with you anymore. It's borderless, it's effortless. So we can use these channels for everything from coordinating neighborhood events to organizing political resistance. Great. What can we do with that as a brand? So let's just look at some statistics quickly. There are now 191 crowdfunding platforms worldwide. Almost $35 billion was raised in 2017. That is a large number. And over 70% of millennials have fundraised for a nonprofit online. Okay? That's crowdsourcing, that's fundraising. What else can we do that shares? For us at Google, we have G Suite, which we see every year, big upgrowth in, which is Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, all those collaborative tools. I suspect many people in this room have used those tools to work together. We know that almost 80% of university students in the US use them. And there are 2 trillion files, which is mind-boggling, stored on Google Drive last year. And I'm not saying this to say everyone go use Google Docs. What I'm saying is people want opportunities to collaborate with each other. And if you can give those to them as a brand, it's very motivating. And you don't have to be a tech company to do it. We'll take a look at a few examples. So this is P.F. Chang's. It's another chain restaurant. It makes Chinese food. They usually have very large restaurants. And in front of their restaurants, they have this trademark kind of giant horse. So if you see that, you know it's that restaurant. What they did is they said they wanted to do some work around National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And what they asked were for people to come out and help them paint all of their horses pink. So they had hundreds of people come out because it's just a fun thing to do, right? I can go paint this giant horse, and every horse that got painted, there was a donation made. They saw a 1,300% bump in user-generated content in the first 8 days of people sending videos about it, telling their friends about it, saying, hey, come to P.F. Chang's, let's do this. As you can imagine, they also sold a lot more food during that week than they usually do because people were out there doing something together. It felt good, and you're already in the place. This is an example that my team worked on, which is Smile with Lay's. And this is another way you can make cooperation and collaboration. People can cooperate and collaborate with your brand. So in this case, Lay's did all of these fun packages with this lower part of people's faces smiling. And they have ad units that will actually work with your camera or your phone. And if you hold up a bag, take the picture, they'll, with your permission, use your face in their digital advertising. So you're actually the face in the ad. In fact, this guy is David, bottom right corner on my team, and he got featured in a couple of their ads. So this is collaboration in one way. Hey, help us build this fun, silly campaign together. We want to work with you. The other part of collaboration, though, which I think is really lovely, is for every photo taken, they contributed a certain amount of money to a charity that does free surgery for children who are born with cleft lips, who basically can't smile until they have that surgery. So that has a lot of elements to it, right? It's fun. I can do it right from my phone. I can share it with my friends, and I'm doing some good for the world. And I'm doing it together with the brand. In this case, we found users looked at Lay's as this fun partner, not as a brand trying to sell them potato chips. One final example, I think, is community translation for YouTube creators. So a lot of YouTube creators are small, they're not companies, they're individuals. They don't have the money to translate their videos into different languages, but you can actually click on a button and say, allow other people to translate for me. And people who like your videos, who speak that language, can do the translation for you in closed captioning. So this woman, Alex Danis, she does science videos, and she's very funny, very quirky, and she wanted to do translations, couldn't do it, asked the community, and she's now, I think, translated all of her videos into 16 languages. So there's a lot, when I say collaboration, there's so many ways to play with this as a brand. So the implication is, can we encourage users to collaborate? Can you present a challenge to them that is best solved with others? Can your brand kind of be that focal point that says, hey, there's an issue, we want to help, but we need you to help us. Or we want to make a new product, help us build it. There's so many ways to play with that, even as a very small brand, and we find it's very successful. So last one, finding progress. We're continually in pursuit of excellence, and today that's more accessible than it's ever been before, right? Digital content can be your personal trainer, master apprenticeship. It can be a private tutor if you're going to school, and it puts progress within reach no matter where you are, whatever your socioeconomic status is or your background. So it allows you to learn almost anything if you want to. We definitely know this to be true. How-to searches on YouTube grow about 70% year over year, with well over 100 million hours of how-to content watched in North America just this year. And these videos get watched. They don't just go out and never get seen. They actually are very, very popular. 67% of millennials say, oh, I can find a YouTube video teaching me anything. And I have found that personally to be pretty true. No matter what you're trying to do, if you do a search for it, someone out there wants to tell you how to do it. So this is an example. This is a random person did this. It's got 1.5 million views, how to fix every zipper issue. So almost anything can become useful content, no matter how basic. So the zipper thing, it's just if your zipper gets stuck halfway up, if you can't get it on. If you take nothing away from this presentation, just go watch this video, and you will have something very useful for the rest of your life. Trust me, you'll be a hero to your friends. Brands can engage with this and own this space in their category, right? This kind of how-to-ness. And I'll give a few more examples and think about some ways that your brand can do the same. So these are these cooking videos by a company called Tasty. This one's got about 1 million views. They have 6.3 million subscribers. People love them. You may have seen these videos. They're shot top down. It's just the hands cooking, and it's nicely lit, and it shows you like the ingredient, and they pour it in. There's no voiceover. It's just music and tells you what to do. I don't know if you guys know Tasty. I did not. I mean, I've seen these videos, but I wasn't fully sure of who they were. And what really surprised me when I looked into them is they're owned by BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed is not a cooking company. BuzzFeed is not a food company. To me, this is an example of a missed opportunity. Anyone from a chef's knife company to a food producer to a grocery store chain could have done this content, but didn't think, what do my users want to know? What do they want to do better? What do they want to learn? BuzzFeed thought about that, and they said, a lot of people are nervous about cooking. What if we made something super simple? And they basically own this content now. Before I get to the implication, I'm going to go back. And I have a personal example, and I think probably a lot of you do as well, of wanting to do something and not knowing how to do it. I had a couple of friends who bought a house that was pretty run down in the mountains upstate of New York. And they had saved enough money that they were going to hire a contractor or a construction person to come in, and they had to fix the chimney, they had to fix the roof. No one would do it. It was too remote. It wasn't enough money. So they looked online, and they had to piece together from various different videos how to fix a chimney, okay, the roof, oh, we have a mouse problem. Any hardware company could have owned that, right, and been there for them every step of the way. So think about what do your users want to do, and how can you help them do it? So that's the implication. How can we leverage our marketing to provide information and inspiration to help people improve? And can you capitalize on people's desire, help them achieve their goals, and at the same time, sell your product? Because you're right there. You're the solution already there, helping them do what they want to do. All right, so in summary, Quicksilver Self, people like to be able to change their day on a moment's notice, help them do that. Placemaking, is there something you can do with a physical place and your product that makes it magical? That gets shared digitally, that has a digital application. Fascinating familiar. No matter how boring you think the product you're having to market is, someone is really excited about it. You can do something cool with it. People will get into it. Energy exchange. Can you help people trade a little bit of happiness, send a little bit of love? Cooperation and collaboration. Can you bring people together to do something via your brand? And lastly, finding progress. How can you help people help themselves with whatever your brand does best? So with that, I will say obrigado. And I think we have a few minutes for questions, or do we? Because of the technical issues, I don't know how we're doing.